One last thing I'd like to talk about in cell having to do with cells is plastids. Now, plastids are just any membrane-bound organelle that is found within the cytoplasm, and we've already talked about a few things that can be considered plastids, like a chloroplast. But in a lot of plant cells, there are other plastids as well, and you will learn about these, some of them at least, in lab. But I wanted to go over what they are and also just tell you a little bit about their interaction over time, because plastids in general can change in terms of the number of them and whether or not they are actually present within a cell. Now, these are mostly in plant cells. There are some that can be in other eukaryote cells. But mainly we're talking about plant cells here. And of course, you know, chloroplasts are for photosynthesis, and they are green, and they are in the outside cytoplasmic edge of the cell. Remember that the plant cell has a central vacuole pushing those chloroplasts on the outside, and they will do cyclosis and move around in the outside edge. Now, another plastid is called a chromoplast. And a chromoplast contains yellow, orange, red pigments. And they're somewhat red, but they look yellow if there's not very many of them. They look orange if there's a few more. And they look the plant will look red if it has a whole lot of them. So, for example, a carrot has less than a red pepper in terms of the number of chromoplasts. So chromoplasts are thought to protect from UV light in plants, and they are also found in the cytoplasm. They don't really, they might cytoplasmic stream, but they're not specifically. They just sort of hang out. But they are also found in the cytoplasm. Usually when you look at a plant, though, it's kind of a combination of the green of the chloroplasts and the chromoplasts. If they have a lot of them, they might be a little yellowy green. But really, mostly the green of the chloroplasts overrides the orange-red of the chromoplasts normally when you look at a plant. The other kind of plastid is called a leucoplast. A leucoplast is a white, well, leuco means white, but it's really a clear plastid for the most part, or somewhat white, and it contains anything that is clear, including things like fatty acids, terpenoids, those kinds of things that might be made in the Golgi apparatus. But they can also, and most prominently, contain starch. And when they contain starch, they are also called, or more specifically called, an amyloplast. And those are starch plastids, and they are very large in a plant cell next to, oftentimes, a chloroplast, because the chloroplasts are producing sugars, and they are stored as in the starch plastid as a starch. So that you'll kind of see those next to each other oftentimes. So the starch plastids are fairly large also in the cytoplasm, but because they're generally clear in a plant cell, you won't notice their color like if you're just looking at a leaf or something. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention, this is not a plastid, but I just wanted to mention about color, is that plant cells also have within their central vacuole, they store purple-blue pigments, which are anthocyanins, and those anthocyanins are like what's in red wine, and what people, they have a lot of properties that are protective from cancer and things like that. But for the plant, they are just like a storage metabolite, and those storage molecules may protect the plant from herbivory and or also from disease and so forth. So if you, I wanted to mention that in the fall, when you see leaves change color, one of the reasons why this happens is normally when you're looking at a leaf, it looks green because the chloroplast color is overriding everything else. And then when the leaf starts to die in the fall, with deciduous trees, that is, they lose their leaves, those leaves will start to senesce. And when that happens, what will happen is the chloroplast will die. And then what you see is the yellow-orange pigments, because they are outside the central vacuole. or sometimes if there's a lot of anthocyanins in the central vacuole, you see kind of a combo of orange, red, and blues. So they look maybe a little bit purple. And then as the leaf dies even more, those chromoplasts degrade. And then what you'll see is more of the kind of purple color or darker color, and then the leaf will turn brown. So usually the progression is green to yellow to orange, red, purple, brown. So I just wanted to tell you that because that might be of interest since it's the fall.